Hey everybody, so I figured to start our first Google e-learning session on YouTube, well, start with something familiar. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Guys, we're going to pray a prayer from St. Catherine of Siena, which is a prayer that I think is particularly appropriate considering what's going on in the world today. I'm praying it for you and for all the people who are having difficult times right now with the corona and everything else going on. Eternal God, I pray to you for all those you have given me to love with a special love and with special concern. Let them be illumined by your light. Let all imperfection be taken from them, so that in truth they may work in your garden where you have assigned them to work. I commend to you those whom you have put on my shoulders. You commission me to keep them awake, me who am always sleeping. Wake them up yourself, kind and compassionate Father, so that the eyes of their understanding may always be wide awake in you. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. So first of all, guys, I would like to just apologize just a little bit for the glare. The thing is, in order to get this board lit up so I can make sure you guys can see it all the time, it requires me kind of artfully with the natural light and putting lamps in weird places. And so there's always going to be a little bit of glare. I'm sorry if you couldn't see it. There's actually a light behind the screen that's just right in my eye. So I assure you, at least you don't have to look at this bright yellow light that's just shining directly into my eyes in order to displace the glare from the sun outside. Anyway, so what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be reviewing a lot of what we've already done with the Seawolf in order to jumpstart us till we have to get into new reading. So this is going to be a pretty long lecture. I'm going to go for at least 30 minutes. And we're just going to be reviewing, and then there's going to be a quiz that's going to be available for you guys via the Google Classroom. And then you guys will take it, and you can go back, you can take notes. I'll be giving you a list of topics, list of things that we covered. And then you can, it's kind of like an open note quiz, but it's pretty long. It's going to be worth some points, but it's mainly just to get the kinks out and to just get used to this whole thing, using Google Classroom, watching videos online. It's kind of all a hassle, but I think we're going to get through it. I'm going to have to ask you to excuse me, students, because I do have a bit of a cough, but because I'm still using my old computer, I don't have a lot of cut and edit and video tech, so when I cough, I won't, let you have to see me hacking on screen. But I also don't really have the opportunity to edit it out anytime soon. I'm going to need to upgrade in order to do that. So we're just going to get through this. We're going to get through this, and we're going to do our best. I just want you to know I am praying for all of you, and I miss all of you. So the book we are reading is The Seawolf, and it is by Jack London. You should remember that by now. Some things to remember about Jack London. He is the famous author of a lot of really critical American texts. There is The Call of the Wild. There is White Fang. He wrote the very famous short story To Build a Fire. Right? And these are his most famous works, but he also wrote the book that we're working on right now, The Seawolf. The interesting thing about the commercial success of Jack London, who made a ton of money, he was one of those first American author celebrities. The Call of the Wild was a story about a domesticated dog that kind of slowly becomes wild, while the story White Fang is the opposite. It starts with a half wolf, half dog, born in the wild, who kind of slowly moves toward domestication. These two books are highly influential on The Seawolf. The Seawolf explores a lot of the same themes, the mixture between human and animal, etc., as both The Call in the Wild and White Fang, but again, it's about humans. The title The Seawolf, the title character refers to the captain, who is Wolf Larsen. We never learn Wolf's Christian name, the name that he was born with. We know that his brother is just as terrifying. His brother is called Death, right? He's Death Larsen, right? But what we need to understand about Wolf Larsen is this: he is the
the kind of the wild, right? He is in this book, if we were to remember how Jack London talks about, whether it goes from domesticity to being wild or wild to domestic, right? We have in Wolf Larsen, right? He's named Wolf because he's basically like a human wolf, right? There's this very famous Latin phrase in Thomas Hobbes. Thomas Hobbes wrote this very important book called Leviathan. And Leviathan is about the social contract, right? The social contract meaning the ways in which people come together in order to form and build societies, right? It's one of those things that our own American philosophy is based off of. And Thomas Hobbes in Leviathan, he says this very, very, very famous line: Homo homini lupus. And that means man is to man a wolf, right? Man is to man a wolf. It means that in the state of nature, right, we're all just killing and eating and competing with each other, that we are naturally aggressive and naturally in competition with one another. Now, I know I'm going through this stuff pretty fast, but just remember, everybody, that I will be putting like a lot of these stuffs on a Google Doc for you to look at, and remember that you can also go back and watch the video as many times as you need to, okay? Now, the idea, right, of this kind of wild, more animal character, right, that, of course, is going to be the character of Wolf Larsen, right? He is the one who represents the wild, the primitive, right? He is the perfect primitive man. In fact, he's even described as neither good nor evil. And the reason why he's not described as neither good nor evil is because he's basically the way you would say that a tiger is neither good nor evil. When you look at a tiger through the bars of a zoo and it looks at you, you know it sees you as food, as meat. I don't know how, tasty some of you would be. I would imagine as a hockey player, you, Mr. Myers, I don't know if you'd be a tasty treat for a tiger, but I'm going to tell you what, that tiger looks at me and sees these extra pounds and he thinks that there's bacon walking around. The point is, right, that a tiger is neither good or evil, but a tiger is still a predator, right? The thing about Wolf Larsen is he is a predator, right? He's an apex predator, right? He's the top of the food chain, right? He is a predator with reason, right? Because of reason, right? Because of reason, Wolf Larsen, right, is neither good nor evil, but he is more brutal than any brute. This word brute, right, it refers to something being savage or being without reason, like brute force, right? It's just this mindless, powerful force, right? More brutal than any brute because, right, that Wolf Larsen is a predator. Even though he's neither good nor evil, he's actually more brutal than any brute, right? But if you remember, right, Wolf Larsen is the representation of this idea that comes from philosophy, and the philosopher, right, we're referring to is Friedrich Nietzsche, right? Nietzsche, Friedrich Nietzsche, and that's this idea of, in German, it's called the Übermensch, or Overman, but in English, it's usually just translated as the Superman. And this idea of the Superman, it literally, or the Overman, the Superman is, right, he's the strongest, and he's above normal morality. He makes his own rules, right? The same way that a hero, when you see those movies, this is a hero who plays by his own rules. That's kind of the idea of what the Superman is, except the playing by his own rules of this particular Nietzschean character is that he has no rules. That's kind of the way that he is. And so this thing about what Jack London is doing, right, when we say that Wolf Larsen is a representation of Nietzsche's Superman, it's actually a critique of the Superman. This book, right, is both a love letter and a scathing criticism. That means harsh, right? A scathing criticism of Nietzsche, right? That's what this is all about. This book is all about critiquing Friedrich Nietzsche one way or another, right? And so there are certain things that he admires about the character of Wolf Larsen, and there are certain things that he very much disagrees about the character of Wolf Larsen. Now, Wolf Larsen is the captain of the ship called the Ghost. As you remember, it is a sealing schooner. That means it hunts seals, right? Right? And as the captain, right, he's already at the top of the list, right? And so this ship is going to represent a lot of different things in society. As we remember, right, when we drew kind of our little ship here, right, that there were those who lived above deck, and there were those who lived below deck, and this was a metaphor about class, right? This is a metaphor about class division, right? Okay, so remember that those who are above deck, right, they are the ones who are kind of above, they're the ones who are kind of on the top of the social ladder, and those who are below deck, right, they're the ones who represent the proletariat, the workers, the people who don't own things, okay? Now, Wolf Larsen, right, because he's kind of a representation of Nietzsche's idea of the Übermensch, or the Superman, he has a character foil, right? That means a character who is the opposite in order to highlight the differences. We remember the term foil comes from when they used to use silver foil underneath gems in order to highlight their sparkliness, right? So the whole point of a foil is it highlights the differences and highlights the attributes of these two different characters. And his foil, of course, is our protagonist, right? Right, that's this word for the main character, right? The one that the action follows, right? His opponent, of course, is his antagonist, right? But the protagonist, right? The hero of the story, if you will, if you don't remember, is known as Hump. But his full name is Humphrey Van Weyden. Right? And he is everything that Wolf Larsen is not, right? Because as we know, Wolf Larsen doesn't have a morality. Wolf Larsen, right, he is amoral. He's not even immoral, he's amoral. But what does Hump represent? If Wolf Larsen represents the wild, what Hump represents is rules, law, civilization. In some ways, he represents the upper classes. But more important than all of that, he is the philosophical tradition of the Christian West. Right? He represents rules, he represents law, he represents civilization, he represents the upper classes, but more importantly, he's the philosophical tradition of the Christian West. So when Nietzsche was writing his philosophy, one of the things that you should know is he wanted to completely remake Western philosophy. He wanted to create a new morality. He wanted to throw out traditional Western philosophy out the window, right? So as the Superman is a challenge, Humphrey is the philosophy that Wolf Larsen is challenging. So I'm going to have to stop this video, and then I'm going to start a new one. We're picking right up where we left off.